to get started with the real lightning talks. That one didn't count. It doesn't even have an entry.
Well, that's gone forever.
A couple bits of housekeeping. So let's get it set up. We have
There we go.
two
Just
Micro HDMI.
These things only work for the room, not for the live stream. For the people at home, it's the microphone that's on the lanyard. So speaker will have that and have to handle both of them. At 4
All
minutes
right.
in, we get the bell. At 5 minutes in, it's a gong. If you come up to advertise and they're still clapping to the speaker, you can wait. I won't count the time against you. If you come up as a speaker and they're still doing something for the advertiser, you can hold on. I won't count it against you. As a speaker, your time count starts when you make a speaker move.
now it's broken again.
It's sort of like football and real football.
Wait.
Wait. So when you start to talk or you start to move around up here, that's when we start counting. So this still doesn't count because you've got problems. If for some reason there are technical problems, we'll take a second advertiser, try to fill the space. If
It has worked before.
Take a second
it's now-
advertiser and it actually works, just sit down, we'll wait. There's still 3 days, we'll get it all in. We have 11 of you coming from this point forward, so we're going to try to get it all
yeah,
done
wait.
in time.
Shove it over to the other.
Remember, it will take us 44 minutes to walk over there if you follow the instructions that's on your lanyard. We can do it in half that if we take the subway.
It worked fine earlier, and it took time.
It worked fine before.
If you are submitting a talk, just come by and say hello, let me know you're there, and put it in through the website. You'll either be for tomorrow or the next day. You get put on the right day without the order until after lunch.
I guess I'll do it without slides if it doesn't work. It's a lightning talk.
Just slide it over.
Ready?
Just slide your slides
So-
over onto the other screen.
Speakers, do make sure you use both microphones. We want to hear you too.
I can't see my mouse now.
Don't push the button on the bottom like I just did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you need a handheld if you want to wander around, or use the button.
Welcome everyone. I'm gonna tell you something about my past 10 years as a cPanel author, because next Monday it will be exactly 10 years ago that I made my first upload to cPanel. Of course, this means that, you know, Mark is just really poor at planning dates, and he really should have planned this next week. So yeah, my first upload was NetFSP. This is a protocol you've never heard of. I actually wrote most of it in 2005, and I could almost get it to work, but it wasn't quite working. So then a few years later, I ran into my code, and then I suddenly discovered, hey, I've grown as a programmer. Now my mistakes make sense, and I can make this work, and well, I can upload this as well, because why not? So that became my first cPanel upload. And one of the main things I learned from that was, if you think there's a small chance that someone else somewhere could reuse a piece of code, just upload it, especially if no one else has done a thing before. That there are only positive sides to it, no negatives. My second cPanel module was file map, which is actually to this day one of my more commonly used modules, and definitely my most released module. This was a very enlightening module for me to author for a number of reasons. Unlike my first module, this was not so much a novel thing, but I decided this thing has been done before, but I'm gonna do it better. Mainly the part where it doesn't crash when you're doing something wrong. People tend to appreciate that. It's also easier to use, and it works on Windows. So yeah, what did I learn from that? Really writing software with like a strong idea in my mind of this is useful. This is not just this is useful for me, but this is also really going to be useful for other people if I do it this way. Create software that will actually be used by a lot of people. Yeah. But this also led to very different things. You see, I just saw him. He's not paying attention. I wrote a blog post about it, and then Mark Overmeer over there. Now he's paying attention. He sent me an email, and he was like, "Yeah, this sounds interesting. You should come to the Dutch Pro Workshop." So I did, and because of that, that was like my first step into the pro community. And after that, a year later, I went to YAPC, and well, I've been going ever since. And all because, if I had never started being a cPanel author, I would not have been here. So yeah, that's also something I got out of being a cPanel author. But there was much more. I started doing some interesting things in XS. And then I got a reply, if you're doing these things, you should probably also be on P5P, because, we might break your stuff accidentally, because you're not really allowed to do these things. So then suddenly I found myself on P5P dealing with pro core stuff. I ran into a bug, and I submitted it, and then there were some related bugs, and then I realized, okay, if I don't fix this, then no one else is going to fix this. And then suddenly I started being one of the Pro 5 porters, accidentally. So yeah, and this taught me a lot of things, because Pro 5 is a very old, very big project, and I'd never worked with that kind of big project before. Not much later, I also got involved in the toolchain gang, which has similar interesting legacy issues, but also, because it's a bit more of a distributed project, it offers a lot more responsibility. I've adopted some modules that are, as we call it, at the source of the cPan dependency river, which means, if I mess up, I break cPan, which is an entirely new experience I've only done it once. So yeah, this was also like a very enlightening experience, and this taught me things that I otherwise would have never have learned. So yes, in the past 10 years, I've made this transition from, programming was my hobby and I was just, doing it in my student dorm, to it's actually my work, and people appreciate what I do. And all of this would have never happened, if I hadn't started programming not by myself, but as part of a community. And that's really what, in the end, being a cPan author brought me. Thank you for your attention. Oh.
You are on a Mac.
I'm here to tell you that in 2 weeks, on September the 6th and 7th, there's a
Did you do it with the
meeting
HDMI
at
last time?
Wilson
Or did it work with the HDMI last time?
conference in Oslo, together with
When
the
you tested
Nordic
it,
Pro
did it work
Workshop.
with the HDMI?
You're all welcome to come. It's not too late to sign up and take a weekend trip. It's not exactly in the middle.
If this works, is it the first Mac that's worked
Our
with that all
trip
day?
to Oslo, it's a wonderful
Yeah.
place, and it might be the last remnants of the depression from the summer there still.
It's not the projector.
We'll have some very good talks there, including talks from Sebastian Riedel, which is the main commentator of Bridges. Hope to see you there.
Yes. Okay. Is it on? Yeah. I'm going to talk a bit about a little thing I created. Actually, it's a clock made for book lovers. We have all kind of books, all kind of clocks. Digital, analog, some spoken, binary, hexagonal. But the nice thing is, Jaap Meijers, he's a Dutch guy, invented for his wife a clock on a digital e-reader based on all kind of phrases of books. In a phrase, this one, 3 o'clock is always too late or too early for anything to do what you to do. It's a nice idea, but it was only on an e-reader. And actually, I'm not such a technical guy. I can't debug such a thing. So I thought, it wouldn't be nice as if it would be as a website. Oh well, let's try. The thing, what it had a very nice concept, I think. Had a lot of phrases from books, almost 1450. It had some cons. It was only standalone, so only on that machine. The images were all images, and actually there were two, one with only the phrase and one with the title and the author. And not every minute of the day was included, because yeah, it's sometimes difficult to find a specific phrase in the book for a certain date and time. As you can see in the nice graph for the managers in here. Okay, never mind. So let's make it a website. First of all, check the copyright, right? Let's see what's happening. Okay, Creative Commons. I can use it, I can change it if I want and have to call this name. Well, I did. Cool. Definition of goal. Yeah, you need to start something off. I wanted to have a clean user interface. Actually, my girlfriend wanted that. And as small as possible. That was my technical thing to do. And also it should work in any browser and easy to manage the phrase and the quotes. So yeah, create basic website, just plain HTML, marked HTML. And just showing the time and the phrase. And the part where the time is suggested, highlighted, in this case in black. I tweaked it a little bit. Actually showing the actual date and time. Not difficult in JavaScript, yes. And be able to show the phrases from a selection or an array or something like that, also in JavaScript, easy. And change it every minute. And later on change it on the minute. Well, in the end, I managed that one as well, but not so difficult. Okay, for now for the phrases. This Jaap has created those images. They were big. I think it's about 64 MB on images all together. That won't work easily on a mobile, for instance. But he also had a CSV file. Yeah. We all know Tux, right? Is he here? He is in the back. On my first Japse, he showed me how the community could contribute what you suggest, and he actually made me very enthusiastic about the community. So this is a small usage of the CSV access, of course. We have this CSV with pipe symbols, and I wanted to create a JavaScript array object item with the source text, the source where it's found, and the author. Yeah, Perl, because we're on Perl, right? Some Unicode decode, CSV. We'll go through that one very easily. And because we don't have any time quotes for every single time, I go for Goodreads for extra quotes based on time. Result? Very, very small website, only 2 KB. And some JavaScript, but yeah, that's static. And it also works on a mobile. And actually, if you see, we could show, maybe show live. It does show here. Yeah, of course it will work. And it will change exactly on the minute through a new thing. And this one is based on time, so I could reload this one often and often to show different ones. The only thing is, I would really like to have it working proper on a mobile. So if anybody knows a widget which can show a website with JavaScript on it working, I really would like to know that. Thank you.
That's the first one. That's the first one. That's work.
Tomorrow there's various talk sessions. But
Who's next?
discuss various things, and one thing we want to so you
I'm Julian. I usually teach people how to use Perl, but today I'm going to tell you how to do stuff with underscore this. Sounds interesting. So you probably have had this situation where you had a directory full of HTML files and you wanted to share them and use them in a browser. And that's really annoying if you don't have an Apache server handy or something. So what you do, if you want to show them to your coworker or something, well, there's this tool called http underscore this, which was written by Pedro Melo. And it does something really cool. Just go http this. And it says, well, we have it here. And if this works, it looks like this. So I actually get a directory listing. And I can click here, and it works. Yay. So that's pretty cool. It works with, oops, we don't need this one yet. Wrong way. There we go. But what you want to do if you want to make it secure, like you're at the company network and for some reason you want to SSL this. Well, Perlanka wrote HTTPS this, which will create a SSL certificate for you on the fly and expose it. Mind it's in a different port. So if we go back here, we go here. As you can see, I'm just going to quickly reload the page. It's going to say, oh no, back to safety. No, actually, I'm going to click advanced and say proceed. So yeah, this works as well. It's not secure, but it works. Yay. Okay. So that works. And so I do a lot of Stack Overflow, and once in a while I come across a question that talks about CGI, like this one. And I usually don't have an Apache handy, and I don't want to just open the file. So how about CGI this? Written by me. So let's cancel that one, and let's just go CGI this. And now this one lists all the scripts in that directory. And if I go here, it'll work. And I think this does something. The code for this is on my GitHub. Please don't look at the CGI code because I tried to recreate it in a realistic way. All right, this seems to work. That's good. Yeah, so obviously don't do CGI because we all know you shouldn't do that. But I think this is handy. Anyway, Perlanka built task foo this, which bundles all three of them, and also the one for the DAF protocol and for the FTP protocol. I think the FTP protocol is quite handy. The DAF protocol I'm not so sure about. I've not really used that one. But those things are not too bad. Like, I don't know, they're like nice for your toolbox. Thank you.
HTML.
That's USB-C. Yeah. Just let Michael this one is fine.
And you can come and see me at the booth where we can answer all, maybe not all the questions, but I'm sure a lot of them. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. My lightning talk today is just going to be on something called Scuttlebutt. Scuttlebutt is an open source project out of New Zealand mainly, which is one of the reasons I got involved in it, got interested in it. As it says there, it's C slang for gossip, and it's a really interesting project. It's one I wanted to talk about. And it answers the age-old question of, do you want to join an amazing social network with lots of good people, I've got to be a lot closer, that no company can control, and that also happens to work offline, which of course we all do. Which was one of the reasons I got involved. It's all part of this. Some of you have probably been picking up on it, this idea of we want to decentralize the web again. We don't want centralized services. One of the other reasons I found it really interesting is this is taken from the documentation for the project, where it talks about the principles about the actual project itself. So it's all about harmony and reflection is their most important thing. And I have to say, dealing with some of the people in the project, they're just really, really nice people. And that's probably the second reason I wanted to get involved in it. So it's very trendy and cool. It uses crypto stuff that I don't understand. But basically, the core idea is that you have a diary that's cryptographically signed, and you just post messages to your diary, and then you share that with people, and that's how it works. So blockchainy magic, so stock price through the roof. And what you do is you can see there your first post is hi, first post, and then you follow somebody, and then the third one is it's a sunny day. And they all link back to each other, and they're all signed, so it's definitely me doing it. And the way it works is if we're on the same network on Wi-Fi, I'll just share my diary with you, and you'll share your diary with me, and then I'll take it away. I connect on a different network, and I share my diary with everybody who's on that network, and I share your diary with everybody who's on that network, and it gets spread peer to peer to peer to peer. But that's not all, because that would be lame and not cool at all. So what I wanted to show you is the actual client itself. This is called Patch Bay, and it's the main client that the geekier subset use. There's a more mainstream one, and it has all the social media stuff I can show, cool GIFs from Studio Ghibli. So it has your social networky stuff. But it also has chess. So it's correspondence chess, but through your diary. So when you make a move, you just write your move into your diary, you share that, and they pick it up. Has the other stuff, has gatherings, so you have a nice little system, so you can say, hey, everybody, let's get together. And that, again, it's just a post to your diary. It's just a message that you post, and it gets turned into this at the client side. But that's not all. Goodreads. Somebody who just did Goodreads? Goodreads? Yep, Goodreads. Their own implementation of Goodreads. Oh, I like this book. I'll give it a review. You just post it as a post in your diary. You share your diary. It'll get shown up. The latest one that they've just started working on, which I find really exciting, is this idea that you can share secrets and give them to your friends to look after and get them back afterwards. So what they do is you have some secret, like a password or whatever. You stick it in what they call a crystal. You break that into a bunch of shards, and you post those shards out to your friends via SSB, and they have it. It's all encrypted with magic. And then when you go, oh no, I need that secret back, you request them back, like this. So I gave it to those 3 people, and they've been the custodians. And I need a quorum of 2 people to give it back. And you can see here that Dan and Zach have returned my shard to me. And that magically means I can now see my secret again. And that's all done just with posts. It's really nice. Okay. And then the last couple of things they have is they have a nice calendar, as you'd expect. And the one that they're working on now, they're doing is to do decentralized polling so that you can organize to meet up, ask, should Lance do a scuttlebutt lightning talk? No answers, but you know. And the very, very last thing, which is how I got involved in it originally, is they're doing a chat client, exactly the same way. It's just little posts, so it's like IRC. And just if you want to talk to me later, if you use GitHub at all, they have a Git client as well. So it's like a GitHub clone that runs on your local machine and gets, when you make a commit, it's just yet another message in your diary. All your friends get it, all your friends can add to it, and all that good stuff. Okay, thanks very much.
Everybody has opinions of which characters we should put in there,
just
There we go. Okay. Okay, so I've done something slightly wacky, and this is my confession. For many years, I have wanted to do something like this, use Perl instead of JavaScript in my HTML files. And I have come up with something called WebPerl that lets me do that. Bit of background first, there's this thing called asm.js, which is a strict subset of JavaScript that browsers can, can compile and optimize, so it runs much faster. You can put entire virtual machines in the browser. Mscripten is the compiler toolchain that takes C and C++ code and compiles it to asm.js and to WebAssembly. WebAssembly is a relatively new format. It's a bytecode for browsers. You can think of it as a pre-compiled asm.js. And the reason I'm using that is because asm.js requires aligned memory access. And as far as I could tell, the Perl core does a lot of unaligned memory access. I'm not an expert, so if any of the porters are here, if you want to talk to me about that, I'd be happy to. And a few people have compiled microperl to WebAssembly or to asm.js, but I'm taking the entire Perl. In the interest of time, I just wanted to highlight a few things here. You can take cPanel modules, even those with XS code, and those get linked statically into the WebAssembly Perl binary. And the second thing is that Mscripten runs in the browser. The browser is a sandboxed environment, so there's no access to the local file system. So Mscripten provides a virtual file system, and I take the Perl 5 installation directory and load that into the virtual file system so that Perl can access all of its modules the way it usually would. Obvious advantage is Perl. You have one language on the client and on the server. What I'm going to use it for is long-running single-page applications, user interfaces, and obviously any place that supports WebAssembly should be able to run this. There are catches, of course. At the moment, it's a fairly large download, 4 megabytes compressed. You can probably cut that down a bit by throwing out some modules. It's a little slower. It's not as fast as plain JavaScript because there's a lot of passing of strings back and forth between Perl and JavaScript that can probably be optimized. And it runs about, native Perl runs about 2 to 3 times faster than the WebAssembly Perl, which is not too bad. You don't want to do computationally intensive stuff, but UIs usually aren't. And of course, as I said, sandboxed, a single process environment. Some things that you might be used to doing in Perl you can't do. You can't fork, you can't run external commands. But luckily, it's not cut off entirely from the outside world. It does support network access. I wanted to go through this example with you really quick. You can download everything at webperl.0gnet. So the first thing you see here is there's this function JS that takes a string of JavaScript code, runs that JavaScript code, takes the return value of the JavaScript code. If that's an object, an array, or a function, it wraps that inside a Perl object, which overloads the array dereferencing, hash dereferencing, so you can use it just like a JavaScript object. Here, I'm calling a method on it, and that gets translated to the appropriate JavaScript method with the appropriate parameters. That returns another object, which I call another method on, and the interesting thing here is that I'm passing an anonymous subroutine as an argument, so, and that gets wrapped inside a JavaScript function, so that when the click handler calls the JavaScript function, it actually is calling your Perl function, and it'll call this Perl code, which is basically doing the same thing again, getting a JavaScript object and calling a method on it, in this case showing a dialog box in the browser. So as I said, this is still very beta. This just came to be in the last last month or so. It really came together. So I'm looking for people to talk to about this. If this is interesting to you, you want to talk to me about it, please come talk to me. Thank you very much. All right, he's going to be using the same computer.
grab the microphone.
Projector takes a little bit longer. Hello, people. How are you doing? Had any good talks today? Or maybe even made some? So I also visited some conferences in the past and listened to some talks and ruined many of my own ones. So I know how to ruin a technical talk because I even get some not too good scores for them. And well, was confused by that sometimes, but we'll talk later about that. And currently, I think that I know how to ruin a technical talk and give you some tips and tricks about that. So one of the best tricks is to make as little font as possible. So everyone is in the audience could not could not just So yeah, my experience is unquestionable. Make as long a list as you can, so it's really interesting reading, and put more text on one slide as more as you can. So let people read, because listening to the speaker is not fun. Reading is much more interesting. So please make smaller code, smaller font for the code. If you need, this is possibly too big, actually. And remember that font color should be closer to the background color. It's nice to have big diagrams with small elements on them, so everything would be on one slide. And don't remember about the technical stuff also. Get your laptop discharged before you come to the stage, and forget your adapter, of course. There are some other things you can do. You can speak too quietly or too quickly. It works especially well if you are a native speaker and the audience contains not native speakers. And being competent about what you are talking about is also a cool way to ruin your talk. And don't have an introduction at all, or a summary at the end maybe. And maybe have too long introduction, spending half of talk to present yourself. And maybe stay like showing you back to the audience and show something on your slide, or maybe get seriously out of time. It's also a nice way to do it. Lose your slides after all. Forget to come. Okay, you all see that it was like a trolling of sort, and if you want not to ruin your talk, just do the opposite of what I said. And talking about survey scores, your score lets speaker know if the talk was ruined actually. But please participate in the survey. This is really useful, but your score itself doesn't let speaker know why their talk was ruined. So please write productive comments, what you liked, what you didn't like about the talk. Because having a score like I had didn't tell me anything, because I didn't have a single comment on that. So what was it? I don't know. Thank you.
Almost there. Almost there, almost there. Okay. Right. I've now lost my screen here. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Perl Events Instagram feed, which is something that Sawyer and I started last year at the Perl Toolchain Summit. And I'm posting images from various Perl events I attend, and also from events I don't attend. So this is a photo from the Perl conference in Salt Lake City earlier this year, and it's taken by Wendy. And I think this is a great photo. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really good. This is from the Perl conference in Amsterdam last year. And in the off-season, I'm kind of posting Perl-related photos. So here's some Perl poetry on my fridge by a couple of friends who aren't Perl programmers. They just saw the Perl fridge magnets, did some poetry. I'm trying to keep the content as photographic as possible, so no memes, no jokes, just kind of photos in the traditional sense. So everything I upload is done manually, and I'm kind of curating it, and I'm not taking a machine gun approach. So a couple during the day on the event, and then maybe 1 or 2 after the event. And it would be nice to get followers, but this is the kind of content that gets posted to Instagram within the particular target market. It's not photographic, and I have absolutely no interest in looking at it. So I don't want to wade through a massive shit to follow people. And of course, Instagram is now full of adverts. There's so much blockchain, it's just incredible. Instagram started off as a photography platform, but now it seems to be a marketing platform, so we can take advantage of that, right? So automation to the rescue. Instapy, it's a automation script for farming likes, comments, and followers on Instagram. And it's very simple to use, very well documented, very highly configurable. You just log in, tell it how to follow people's images. In this case, follow everyone's images that we like. Then you tell it how to find images to like. So here I'm finding images tagged with Perl 5 or Perl 6. And of course, I want to find more than that, so this is a list of tags it's currently following or liking to follow people. And the problem is, following Perl on its own led to a massive jewelry and makeup related accounts, so it's a slightly false positive. And even when we do follow seemingly programming related tags, we end up following, yeah, it's like reptile shops, Python obviously. But the hit rate is actually reasonable and the return isn't bad either. And the library actually has functions to unfollow users depending on particular settings, so we don't hit limits on you can't follow more than 10,000 users or whatever. And the accounts that we do follow can be pretty interesting and hopefully are helping to get us a little bit out of the bubble, out of the echo chamber. So this is a coder in Mexico. We've got a young aspiring developer here. And Liverpool Girl Geeks. Has anybody heard of Liverpool Girl Geeks? No? Now you have. And founders of coding related groups, which might be useful because they maybe get a bit more aware of Perl through Instagram. And we're up to about 2,000 followers. The script is running once a day as a cron job. So even if we get 1 or 2% that are interested in Perl events, that's kind of cool. And the bot is casting a very, very wide net. This is another script, another Instagram account I run for the gallery back home. And for this one, we want to be much more targeted. So instead of using tags, we're actually using locations. So this is following all the local resorts in the area. The idea is that any visitors that go on the pistes and post a photo on Instagram and tag it, then within 24 hours they know about the gallery. And it seems to work because we've had people come in and visit us and say, oh, you saw you on Instagram, so it's quite cool. The thing is, Instagram is now a marketing platform. This is an image I posted to my own account about 18 months ago, and I would still get likes on this 12 months later. And it's a very generic thing. I tagged it with Melbourne. Now, nobody's wading through millions of images tagged Melbourne, only the bots. If you are interested in the intersection of photography and Perl, I'm giving a talk at the Swiss Perl workshop about using this camera and the Raspberry Pi and some Perl to move mountains. Oh, wrong one. So the Swiss Perl workshop is on the 7th. Oh, that's good. There we go, the 7th and the 8th of September this year. So come along, submit talks. And also we actually have the London Perl workshop this year. And I made a bit of a cock-up. We scheduled it on the 3rd of November, which actually is the same date as Freenode Live. So what I want to do is conduct a little straw poll. How many people are or were planning to come to LPW this year on November the 3rd? And people keep your hands up, and people raise your hands if you would come on the 10th, or if you would not come on the 10th, put your hand down. So more hands went up and hands stayed up, so I'm going to guess that it would be nice for people if we scheduled it on the 10th of November. So what we'll do is we'll put a blog post out and see what the reaction is. Thank you very much.
Hello. We all like a bit of AA Milne, don't we? But actually, not now we are 6, now we are 20. Because London PM is 20 years old in 2018. Which feels kind of weird because it means I started it when I was 12. But for those of you who, like me, that makes you realise just how old you are. I'm very sorry about that. So it seemed like a good idea at the time. On the 28th of March in 1998, I sent this, who remembers Comp Lang Pearl? I sent a message to Comp Lang Pearl basically saying, hey, I've heard of this pearlmongery type stuff going on in the US. Maybe we should do something similar in the UK, or more specifically in London. Leon was talking earlier about how posting to cPanel sort of drew him into the community. This was where I made my mistake. So 2 days later, I posted a follow-up saying basically that I've had people getting back in touch with me and we're going to make a go of it. I've had about 5 people get back in touch with me. I figured that was a quorum, that was enough. It says on here we had a website, so in 2 days I built a website. Doesn't show that I built a website in 2 days. One thing particularly, there's this joke on here that I was really proud of. We should have that on t-shirts, but nobody else thought it was funny. So anyway, the reason why I'm thinking about it right now is because the 6th of August, so that's like a few days ago, that was our first ever meeting. We had it in a pub in London called the City of York. Have you ever noticed when you go back to photos from 20 years ago how small they are? That 12-year-old in the middle with a tie on, that's me. Then, skipping on a bit, because I can't do the whole history in 5 minutes. Sometime in about June of 2000, and I don't think there's anybody here who's going to argue with me about the dates. And we had a conversation that went along the lines of, oh, that Yapsy thing they've done over in the US, that looks fun. How hard can it be? And there's a few people in the audience that know the answer to that question. The answer is, it is very, very hard. So thank you to everyone who's ever organised a Yapsy. But yes, so we organised the first Yapsy Europe. So I guess in a way we're kind of responsible for this as well. And here's another of those small photos of people turning into devils at the end of the conference, all looking very, very tired. I wanted to talk a bit about the cat herders that we've had running London PM over the years. I started it. What I've done here is I've taken everyone's Twitter thing, just to be completely fair. This is how they display themselves on Twitter these days. And then we had Paul Myson, who has gone to the US, via Iceland apparently. Mark Fowler, who's around here in the UK for the first time for ages, who went to prison apparently. Simon Wistow went mad. Greg, who just went, and I'm probably not the only person in the room who misses him every day. Leon went orange. Leo turned into an apple-eating sheep. Tom eats cabling problems for breakfast. Sue has the smallest Twitter avatar in the world, so when you show it on the screen, it gets all pixelated. She doesn't look pixelated in real life. And finally, there's Rick, our current leader. So actually, I think there's about 4 of us around. If there's anybody in the audience, could you just stand up and take a round of applause? The former leaders. Go on. In fact, so they don't feel shy, anyone who's ever run a Pearlmongers group, clap them. So cat herding is hard. And then the other thing we've done that we're all really proud of is the London Pearl Workshop. And I had a slide saying we've done it since 2004, and it's going to be on November the 3rd, but thank you, it's not. Or it might not, so who knows. So it's been a great 20 years. I'm looking forward, of course, to the next 20. And it only remains for me to say, cheers. And the use of the beer glass image and associated with the Pearl language is trademarked the London Pearl language used with permission. Thank you very much.
organizing, working with organizers, planning on volunteering to help organize. One of the things that you really ought to be thinking about, and I hope you are thinking about, is accessibility. And I don't just say that because I spend a lot of my time writing about the wheelchair. I think about that a lot. If you're interested in learning more about how to think about that in a new and creative way, it's really not all that new or all that creative. It's just thinking about it for a change. I have a session on Friday that's on schedule. Come down
I need both my hands though.
Make sure you speak to that microphone.
Okay.
Reasonably close.
Okay. Like this close? A bit closer. A bit closer? Yeah, it's slide it up again. Great. Can everybody hear me? This is fine. Okay, so unlike the others, I don't have slides, but I have live demos. So these are my slides. And then kudos to Ingi. I have a PowerPoint written in Bash. So anyway, so this talk is about. I need to screw up. Yes. So I'm Google. I want to ask you a question. So can this interesting expression be evaluated to true? So I encountered this question a while ago on Stack Overflow, and decided to make it a Jeff game. So the point is, do you print this string, and so like given like the last 3 lines of your program, they should look like that. How can you make it print like the Jasper Pro hacker? Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure like all of you can come up with some answers. So the first solution I came up with is to have an object. So basically make an object and then overload the equal sign and always answer yes. That would be the simple. The original question was asked in the context of as a JavaScript language, and then there's also like something equivalent to this. The second, yeah, that works. The second one is use type. Similar idea, but you cannot overload equal, so you kind of do this and like pretty much tied to the question. That worked. The third one, if you can quickly decrypt it. So basically, this just bypass the entire encryption. So that's a here dog marker up to here. So we create an empty string in the void context, and then basically just run this part of the code. So that also worked. Yay. So the next one is a similar idea. This is the first line is like a poor man's solution of source filter. It opened so this opens the file itself, and then this slurp the whole file, replace equal with equal. Then the whole thing evaluates to true. Then so I took this snippet from the Acme Bleach. Then I went to like the original JavaScript question, which is very interesting. It has this very specific like space between stuffs. So this one works. So it looks like you are assigning the same variables 3 times, but pay attention to the space. Okay, so this is a program. So what I'm going to do is use this Emacs function called describe character. So I describe the character S, so it tells me that's S. So if I move to here, so that is the character code point. This one, that's definitely not white space. The character name is called what is this? Halfway Hangul filler. So that is a character that has like no ink in there. So that's one thing. That's one of the few Unicode character you can put it, make it a part of a variable name without much complaints. And then it looks like a space. I was trying to find like can we use something that looks like an equal sign as part of a namespace, but none of them work. All right, the next one is almost similar idea. So there's no space in this version, But if you pay really, really close attention, so you notice that this one looks slightly sort of fatter than the other one. So again, same idea. That's 3 different variables, and then there's one Latin A, there's one Greek A, and then there's one Cyrillic A. So they all look identical. Okay, so of course it wouldn't be this works. So, and then the last but not least here is the obvious solution to bypass the entire code base. Yeah. So you can find this code on my GitHub account, and then thank you for listening.